Hello, this is Perry Gunderman with Coda Bears. We've recently begun offering off-site backup services via Carbonite for cloud and NAS services. Today I'm going to show you a little bit of how we use the Carbonite server backup application to manage our file system and server backups. As you can see here, I have a file systems and system backup already created. We won't go over how to create a new backup today, but just know that you can create as many as you need for your individual server or environment. On the right here, under backing up for the file systems, we see everything that I've selected that will be backed up. Everything with a check mark will have everything in that folder backed up, every document, every file of every type. However, this little dash here, as you can see next to the Perry folder icon, indicates that only some of the files and or folders inside will be backed up. You can also, down here in the excludes files, select what type of file you would like excluded. Here I've made the choice to exclude all video file types, .mov, AVI, MKV, MP4, MPG, and WMV, because I don't have a need to back up any video files from these environments. Also on this panel, we can see an estimate backup size. When you click this, it'll go through all the files and folders you've had selected and give you an estimated size for the files on the backup before compression. As you can see here, it estimates that all the files that I've selected up here, all the folders and directories, will take approximately 43.45 gigabytes. On the panel on the right, we can see the details and server settings for the backup. The first option is cloud backup, or NAS device backup, or disk backup. You can switch between a combination of the two, only doing a disk backup or only doing a cloud. I've selected only cloud for my demonstration purposes, but all options are available. You can also select, if you have disk storage, where it will be stored. Right now there's a path indicated in the disk storage, but it won't be backed up until I change the option from cloud only to disk only, or disk in cloud, and then click the save button. You can also change your cloud storage geography, but usually USA is going to be your best option if you're in the United States. There are other options available, but that's usually set during setup. Here I have a full backup to cloud every month at 2100 on the first Friday of the month. So that means when it goes through the calendar, every time that the Friday occurs, whether it's the first day of the month or the 5th or the 7th, it will begin a full backup of the entire system. Then I have it set to do differential backup every day. So if it finds any file or folder that's been altered, it backs it up. There are scheduled templates available to do weekly full and daily incremental, monthly full, weekly differential, daily incremental, as well as you can add your own custom schedules. Retention settings lets you know how long you want to keep something around after it's already been backed up. If we click the edit button, we can see that we can choose between time retained and number of cycles. Right now, I have it set to keep 2 successful backups at all times, as on the disk as well as the cloud. As I mentioned before, though, it will not be backing anything up to the disk until I change from cloud only to cloud and disk or disk only. We can also change advanced backup settings. These settings include data encryption, compression, throttling, and any scripts that we might want to run. For compression, most of you will want this on. It means you're able to put more stuff up with less space used. It's not going to make a huge difference initially, but in the long run it will be the better option. There's also throttling, which allows you to control how much bandwidth is being used at any given time by the Carbonite backup service. With it off, it will use up as much bandwidth as it can get a hold of at all times. With it on, you get a little more control over how much gets backed up and when. We can throttle by time, which we can set the max upload and download rates, or we can throttle by speed. When you throttle by speed, you set exactly how much it can go up to at all times and how much it can download at all times. When you click one of these buttons, you'll be brought to a screen like this, which allows you to set the bandwidth usage by time. Down here we have a few predefined ones, so let's go for throttle on weekdays, where we see that until 6 in the morning it will use full bandwidth speed every weekday, Monday through Friday. Then, at 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock, it will switch to 3,000 kilobytes per second. After that, we want to have our main employee hours from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. use only 500 kilobytes per second, so that most of the resources for bandwidth are available to the employees who are actively doing work. Then at the end of the workday, it begins to give a little bit more, and then back up to unlimited, with the weekends constantly being unlimited. Another option is the gradual throttle on weekdays. It's like the other throttle, but allows a little bit more bandwidth control for a longer period of time. Here, until about 4, bandwidth will be unlimited. Then it switches to 70,000 kilobytes per second, and slowly makes its way down until about 8 a.m., where it gets to 500 kilobytes per second, then 250, and then it does the reverse to increment again, with the weekends being unlimited the entire time. Again, you can also set your own predefined one, but we'll keep with gradual throttle on weekdays. After throttling, we can work on if we want to have any scripts run. Scripts can include things like generating a text file that tells us that the backup was completed or what was and was not completed, sending off emails to employees, or anything else you might need to have done or want to have done after a backup. Finally, on the right pane, we have email notification preferences. When we click this, we can set who we're sending it from, who will receive the email, and various other mail settings. You can also set if you want it to notify you via warnings, whenever there is a small issue with the backup, whenever the backup is completely successful, or if there's any sort of critical failure. Critical failure is the default. In addition, we have system backup. Here I'm doing a backup of various boot files, system files, certificates, and other items. Over here, again, as we saw the file systems backup, I can set whether I want it to cloud, disk, or disk and cloud. The backup schedule, retention, advanced backup settings, and email notification preferences. If we click Add a new backup set, we can see that we have other options available, including Exchange, SharePoint, Hyper-V backups, Oracle, and MailStore. This is in addition to the computer and laptop backups that employees will be able to do if they are given accounts. Now let's take a look at restoring options. As you can see in this first box here, it shows a listing of all the backups that I've run, when they were run, what type of backup they are. So as you can see, most of mine are differential. As I mentioned before, I have a nightly differential backup, as well as a monthly full backup. I can choose what point I want to restore, whether it's a full, the differential, or whatever is the latest. I can also do a restore all, restore select, or I can search for an individual file. With restore select, we also have the ability to edit restore settings, such as putting the files that we download into an alternate location or their original location. We can also choose to restore them to a different folder should we choose not to put them in their original location. We can also decide whether we want to keep an existing file in the case of wanting to have 2 copies of the same file, or we can overwrite an existing file, which can be used in the event where a file becomes corrupted or has been lost completely. You can also rename the existing one, or rename the restored one, giving it something like file name 1 or file name 2. We also have advanced settings, which allow us to choose between keeping downloaded archives, performing archive verification, and again running scripts. Next, we have the monitor. The monitor allows us to see all the activity, including backups, restores, and downloads. We can also view the report. The report will tell us what has occurred and when. All the green check marks indicate that something was successful, yellow indicates that there was an error, and red indicates that something did not go through completely. When clicking on one, you can view on the upper right portion here additional details about it. You can also click up here on Preferences to set bandwidth, email, advanced settings, and language settings. With bandwidth management, you can also set the general bandwidth by speed and by time. Finally, let's take a look at the Carbonite web portal. Here, we can look at both the Carbonite Pro, which is useful for desktops and laptops, and Carbonite Server Backup, which can include things such as Hyper-V, databases, or entire servers. You can go to the dashboard for these, where you can see additional details, such as how much data is being used currently of your total amount, what users are on there and what machines, as well as what servers are being backed up. From here, you can also download the Carbonite Pro application for computers or the Carbonite Server application for servers and file system. That should give you a brief idea of how Carbonite works and some of its many applications and how it might be practical to your business. Thank you. Have a good day.